We are not licensed medical professionals. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are meant to share our experiences and not to diagnose or as a form of treatment. If you or anyone you know is currently suffering, respectfully encourage them to seek help from a licensed medical professional. The topics discussed in this podcast may be triggering for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Now Try It With Wine. I'm Des.
And I'm Mary. Today we're going to be talking about part 2 of our accountability and toxicity episode. And we're going to be talking specifically about ways to overcome the toxicity we have been exposed to.
And we still have Pops here.
Hi.
Say what's up again. But do it gangster this time.
What's up?
There's it. Nailed it. Okay, now drop the mic.
No, they're expensive.
So just pretend. So the first half, I wanted to go over overcoming cultural trauma. So last time we went over a lot of different levels of trauma that we've been exposed to within our own culture. So what are like some suggestions that we can do for our next generation to encourage them on how to step away from that kind of toxicity? So the first one on my list was change your environment and you change yourself. Did you feel like for me, I think about college and how that experience opened me up to like people I never would have met otherwise and forced me to work with them. Did you kind of get that experience when you went to school, Des?
No, I got that experience when I moved out.
Oh, explain.
Well, when I was on my own, I got to like not be myself, but more so have my own opinion. I love my dad so much, but my dad is very opinionated and at that time did not take anybody else's opinion into account.
But I also think that's a part of the culture too, is that there's a head of the household. The man's the head of the household. I honestly, I agree with the sentiment that because it's his household, he pays the bills. He should have a certain level of domain over.
Yeah. Well, I totally get that, but it's just more so like as soon as I moved out, when I started understanding my parents more, too, I was starting to understand, like, okay, what I was doing was wrong. What they were doing probably wasn't right. Now I can talk to them about it. I've done it before. When I first moved out, my dad was being mean to me. I just fucking left. And he was like, where's Des? My sister's like, well, she was mad at you, so she left.
Yeah, but I think that that's important for people to have that kind of separation from their parents, to get their own footing as an adult and their own person. But I think your dad was right to, like, honestly, to test you and to still be a little bit of himself, because like the learning process for everybody when one of their kids moves out, especially because we are such a tight-knit culture.
Yeah.
Did you experience that, Abram?
Growing up, no. It was more of just get your shit together. I think for me, personally, I don't know about the culture as much, but I did see it a lot with a friend. So maybe with culture, it was like your parents were like, there's the world, figure it out. You know,
you learn through your friends kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, you learn with the people that are around you. And because like, I think with Des, when she was still in high school, we talked more and more of like financially, this is how you take care of your money. This is, you know, where I never talked to my parents about. My parents never told us anything like that. You know, we had to figure it out on our own. You know, we make a joke when me and my wife got married. They say, oh, from, you know, richer for poor. Well, fuck, we didn't think poor was going to get that fucking fast.
Yeah.
You know, it was like around the corner. But I think with Des, when she moved out, it was kind of a rude awakening for me, because in my mind, I had the idea of, I still want her here. She can do whatever she, you know, as an adult. But at the same time, I knew, like, okay, at some point she has to leave the nest. And I don't know, she says I'm very opinionated. I am. And I know this is one of the toxic traits on the list that I saw. I see it as I'm preparing you
for the life after.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want you to walk out the door thinking, oh my God, it's sunshines and rainbows. And then the first storm comes by and you're like, oh shit, what do I do?
Well, I said it in I don't remember what episode. I actually think it was our first episode. We did talk about finances when I was in high school and like about to graduate, about to get my first big girl job. What am I going to do with my money? But I was y'all's therapist for a long time.
Yeah, you were. I'll admit, you know, you growing up, being there, you a lot of times you did iron out the things between me and mom.
Again, I'm totally okay with it. I still do it now. Don't get me wrong. But I said in the not the last episode, but like a couple of episodes that my parents had me really young. They weren't like super young.
I know when she said
That
that,
sounded
I was
like
No, let's tell the truth. I wasn't super young. Your mom was super young.
but not super young where it was illegal. Okay.
yeah.
No.
But Desiree made it sound like you guys were like 15, and I was like,
So I'm
Des,
so
Did
sorry.
you mean to make it sound like that?
So sorry to give that. That was wrong. They did like they had me young, as well as like they were still trying to figure out themselves and their relationship. So then here comes little old Des into the world, and my parents, like my dad said, are trying to figure out, counting pennies, what the fuck are we gonna do with this baby?
I think that what your dad is saying, it resonates with me because I'm thinking of my own mother and my father, where their first experience out of the house and learning anything real was when they got married and moved in together and they got pregnant right away. Because my mom and dad also got married really young. My mom was like 19 when she had me. So like that was her first. My grandparents kept them under like lock and key and was very like closed off for them. So her first exposure to real problems and being
Real
an
world.
adult was like being thrust into marriage, which to me is like trial like by fire.
Yeah, and then of course you get that opportunity of, what if it doesn't work out? I have a kid. I'm 19. In my case, I was 24, I think, something like that.
Oh, as soon as I turn 25, I'm better than y'all. I told my mom that when I think she was 20.
I like how you beat on your chest when you said
I
that.
did.
It's that pride coming out now.
When I turned
toxic
20,
trait.
no, when I turned 21, I was like, let's go. I beat my mom. No kids.
But I mean, when it comes to that, I mean, it's just you're either going to learn or you're going to fall.
Yeah.
To me, that one trait about your environment, it's up to you. It's up to you whether you follow your environment or you move from your environment. Not necessarily like you have to move out or whatever area you live in, but you don't have to be what's there.
That kind of leads into my second thing: challenge cultural ways of living. If you want more, do more, be more.
Exactly.
Don't do the same thing you saw other people doing.
Exactly. And a lot of times it's everybody else. I think the problem is that it's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
And
So and so was mean to me when I was a child, and not that that's invalidating of what happened. Yeah, like our parents aren't perfect; they do some pretty shitty stuff sometimes. But if we carry that our whole lives, like what you were saying in the last episode, like if you carry that with you and you let it influence every interaction you have from that point on, that's on you.
yeah, that's why, like in the other episode, it was my main concern having children was I don't want to beat them like I got beat. Thank God, like when I was at my worst, pissed off all the time and everything because of work, they were old enough.
Yeah.
To
know what you were doing was wrong.
Yeah.
And not make it about themselves necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to sit there and for somebody to say, oh, well, I'm this way because that's what I saw. Okay, well, at some point you
knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
I think of that Jordan Peterson clip I sent you because I was like, he loves Jordan Peterson too. I'm gonna send him clips. There was a part where he was talking about they might, like, let's say you decide I'm gonna hit my wife today. You knew in that moment it was wrong.
Yeah.
But the next time it becomes a little less wrong to you.
Yeah.
And every time you do it after that, it becomes less and less wrong.
Yeah, it almost becomes a point to where like you justified it for some reason.
Mm-hmm. And then you forgot what the reason was, or like it doesn't matter anymore because it's become a habit.
Exactly. It becomes that habit of, you know what, I did it once, I can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest. I mean, there was times that we argued to the point of I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I had seen it, and I was determined not to be that way.
And I've seen tendencies in myself where I've wanted to resort to getting physical because I get so frustrated because I can't express my emotions. I'm not being understood. And I've had to tell Robert, I need to leave this conversation or something ugly is going to happen. I always say that it's like, I don't want to say something I don't mean. I also don't want to hit you.
Mine's more like just saying mean things.
I'll start
Thanks.
breaking shit.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Dad.
Desiree gets that from me. I'm the same way. Excuse me. I will speak and then think. And by that time, at that point, it's like, well, I'm done fucked up already, so might as well.
Might as well let it all hang out.
Yeah,
Falls to
it's
the
like,
wall.
great, this is not going to work,
So usually when Andrew and I like argue, I'll be like, okay, I need a couple of seconds or like a minute to myself before like I say something mean.
Yeah. So you're seeing what you saw, what was wrong, and you fixed it in the way you reacted going forward. So
Yeah.
I think that's important for us to think about when we're looking at our traits. If once you become aware of it, now it becomes your responsibility to change it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's times still now that where we argue, my wife and I, and it's like, I think her mechanism is she just shuts down. She just stays quiet.
Oh, is that where I get it from?
There's fight, and freeze.
Yeah. And
I cry.
And for me,
Freeze.
and for me, when I need somebody to have combat with, I need that argue back with me so I can make sure you get my point. I don't give a shit about your point, but I'm going to make sure my point gets to you. And the only thing I found out 25 years of marriage is it just pisses her off more when I'm standing there. Are you going to argue? Are you going to talk? Now you're not going to say shit? Well, guess what? That's a couple of nights of like, no good night.
Yeah.
No, I love you. The pissed off kiss goodnight to work, goodbye to work. And yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. I have the same issue. Like, I get so worked because I told us I have a real issue expressing anger towards anything or like being really mad at someone in like directly. Mm-hmm. So like when I've worked myself up to the point when I've talked to like Robert and he didn't react the way I wanted to and we've just worked each other up, I won't let go. Like even after he said his piece, I've said my piece. I can't stop.
Yeah.
So he completely disengages from me. He doesn't get mad. He just goes, makes himself something to eat, turns on the TV, like just moves on.
That gets me so
Yeah.
heated again.
But I need him to do that because I get mad and I'll go
think that-
storm off in the room.
yeah.
But him doing that tells me you're fighting with yourself at this
Yeah.
point.
I think that comes from what we saw our parents, the arguments, the fight, that trauma, to where we wanted to see the fight. I'm mad.
We wanted the justice.
Yes.
That's another thing I've seen a lot, like with other people I've talked to that have trauma, is that we have this strong sense of justice, that we need justice to be served in some way.
I want an answer. I want it fixed, and I'm not waiting. And the other person's like, well, calm down.
It's not there yet.
Let me walk away. No, I want it now. And it's like, in reality, we're just making it worse.
Yeah.
what
'cause
did we say in like an episode ago or like two? That we see arguments, what we see on like movies and TVs, how each one's like yelling at each other, they storm off, and
Yeah, we get it's more of that back and forth dialogue of this is what you did, no, this is what you did, and this is why we're fighting, and why are we doing it,
and that's not every fight.
And in reality, that's not life.
yeah.
I mean, I know there's times that I've come home and she's mad. I have no idea why, and she'll tell me nothing. It's like, okay, I know something's wrong because you don't snap at me like that. Yeah, I think it's just the fact that we need that validation of I'm mad and I want to know what we're going to do about it. Yeah. And granted, 25 years of marriage, I'm finally figuring out that you're not going to get it fixed right away.
Nice.
Yeah. That, and you've already got your pound of flesh and you need to be okay with. You didn't get what you want,
right?
But it is what it is. Like,
yeah. And honestly, I will never figure out my wife. I'll die and not figure out how she is and what.
I think the person Robert thinks I am is really cool, but I'm not her.
Andrew's told me already. He's like, I knew what I was getting into. He's like, a little toxica. I know. I'm like, oh my God.
No, because Robert's like, well, Mary, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, oh shit, I will?
What's the next step?
So the last one is to be vulnerable is to be powerful when you're overcoming for Latino culture. I think that there is a lot of power in being vulnerable with the right people, not with everybody. Because I do think that in our culture, there is a lot of the bullying and a lot of the putting people down and overcritical. And if you expose that to the group versus to a certain person, the reaction isn't going to be anything positive.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it where people have had like an emotional breakdown at a party over something in their personal life and they've put it on the table and everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry. The second they turn their back, they're like, what a dumbass.
Oh, no, I'll just say it right there. I'll be like, oh, you fucked up. What'd you expect? You know, I'm the one at the table going, what'd you expect?
Yeah, but then there's also like that also could be seen as toxic to that person because they're coming to you for help.
Well, then I guess I'm toxic. I'm not going to change.
Well, that's what I'm saying with people. They need to be careful because you won't act like that if it were Des.
No, I would.
I don't think you would, Abram. I've seen her have a little bit of a like meltdown, and you're like looking around like, who the fuck fucked with her?
Well, I am, but like Des can tell you, I've never hid the world from them. So she can have that little meltdown or the meltdown that she needs, but at the same time, I don't know, she can step in here, but she'll know that Dad's going to be like, what'd you expect?
She's holding something.
I want, go ahead.
I wish y'all could see my face.
I know I had to turn this way so I could see your face.
He comforts me, and then he'll be like, so, like, you understand why you're dumb, right?
Yeah, but that's not toxic in itself. He's helping you get to a space where he's safe to tell you the truth.
But I think he's like that with everyone in his circle.
Yeah, and like that's what I mean.
Because if you came to him, he'd be like, okay, I'm gonna come for you, but like you understand you came to me, so you know I'm gonna tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't know what it is. That's just the way I've always been. You know, it's everything I went through, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
You know,
people at work can do the same thing. They'll come to me and I'm like, okay, now are you ready for me to be real?
Yeah.
It's like the zodiac sign in us where Cancer's.
Is your dad Cancer?
No, he's a Scorpio.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know. What
He
does that
bites
mean?
back.
Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Maybe
you're
he has a little
Scorpion.
more bite than we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm nurturing the whole time. Even when I'm telling you, you a dumbass, I'm going to do it nicely.
Yeah,
No,
like
no.
I do it like I'm like, okay, like I know you came to me, but do you want me to like sugarcoat tell you the truth, or do you want me to be real? And when I am real, I'm like, but that's just my opinion, LOL.
No, it's like people will come or family members will come and be like, hey, we want your opinion. And first words out of my mouth, do you want my opinion or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear?
Robert does that to me all the time.
And it's not that I want to be mean, but I don't want them to have the expectation that it's going to be all hunky-dory and everything's going to go smooth. And then later on, it's like, well, you said, I told you what was going to happen.
So that kind of leads into the overcoming personal toxic traits. Ladies and gentlemen, the pessimist.
That would be me.
The tóxico.
Often this trait comes from wanting to be practical and realistic.
Yeah, he's a bubble popper.
So,
Bubble buster.
Abram, if
Bubble
you
buster.
wanted to address your bubble busting ways, the suggested way is to develop a positive mindset through self-awareness. Like, so regulating yourself before you pop the bubble.
Yeah, but
If you wanted to address it. I don't think you do. But if someone out there has noticed that maybe in your relationship with your wife, you don't want to have that mindset with her because it's not nurturing to her. Like, I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm just saying
no,
that.
but I do have that mindset with her. And like you're saying that, you know, to change it and be, you know, positive. I'm positively sure that I'm going to tell you the way it is, you know.
But you can still validate the person. And I think that when you're being too pessimistic, you're being realistic, but you're not like celebrating the wins at the same time. And you can do that with your kids, because my mom did that with me. She was not the type of person to celebrate the good things I did. She was always trying to push me to do more and do more and do more. And I respect that now. But if it was my partner, if Robert was doing it to me, it would kill me more from him because he's supposed to be my cheerleader.
I would think when it comes to like that with me and my wife, I support everything she does. Like she supports what I do.
But then stop yourself before you say the negative thing, Abram. You have to do it. You have to become self-aware that when you're having a conversation, bite your tongue. Kiss yourself on the ass or something. Tell yourself, I'm a big shit, but it's okay. I don't got to say something
I'm
right
like
now.
just on the sidelines, like, oh my god.
What, do you not agree? Like, I'm like, what are you for? I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I guess I've grown up with my dad. Obviously, he's my dad, so I'm just not used to it. But like, I always know it's a good sandwich. You know, he's gonna be nice, tell me real, and then be nice to me again. But it's not like being mean.
But I think there's some instances where that kind of conversation is not helpful. Like being the bubble buster, give them their time is what I'm trying to say. Like give them the time to be excited about something.
Yeah, like when I made a joke that I was going to be an Olympic tennis player, you did not have to bust my bubble.
You thought the little brown girl?
And no.
No, like for example, when the instance you just talked about, it's not that she couldn't, but not that I knew the odds, but I knew the odds. You know, it's like any other kid. Oh, I'm gonna grow up to be the next wide receiver for blah 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 team. In reality, it's like your odds aren't that good. You need to be the top 1% of the 1%.
I agree with Desiree.
It's pretty pessimistic of you.
Yeah. And it's okay to let kids dream.
You know what?
But your what is it? The desire for realism and for like to monitor their expectations. I think you're causing the pain that you're trying to avoid by not letting them dream. Do you know what I mean? Like you're wanting to lower their expectations, but that's hurting them just as much as if letting them have these big dreams.
Reduce your expectations.
Like say to yourself, like that kid's a dumbass, but okay.
Great.
You're gonna be president. I know it.
I just started tennis, and he was like, yeah, that's gonna be you.
You saw calm down, John McAvoy.
No, I mean, like I see it as. I'll use this for an example. When Des went to basic.
Oh damn.
We talked. We were on the phone talking for the 3 times that we got to talk to you over the phone.
Yeah.
Not counting the third, which was the final one. But she calls me and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm thinking about doing airborne," and I was all like, "Okay."
I'm gonna be honest. That was like the first time he didn't bust my bubble. I'm gonna be real honest.
The only thing I said was, "Okay."
Don't tell your mom until you go to basic.
Until you're done. But I didn't tell her anything more because at this point, whether she called to tell me to see what I thought or called just to say, "Hey, Dad, I'm thinking of this," she's an adult. That was going to be her choice, whether she wanted to hear it from me. Well, don't be surprised if you don't make it,
I learned I wasn't going to make it. I'm too little. You have to hook onto a line in the airplane. And the
line's like 6'3".
Even I can't jump. Like you have to reach with your arm all the way up. So I wouldn't have made it.
But I think, and this is just me putting my psychology brain on, is that
I'm waiting for the bill at the end of this.
That you had such little interaction with Des. You said it was 3 phone calls. You were gone for how long?
3.5 months.
Yeah. And with you guys' level of interaction now, that's a huge difference. So I think that your desire to make the little experiences you had with her count kept you from saying anything.
Saying the rest.
Saying the rest. So you are capable of tempering a little bit.
I'll take that. But even
No. We're going to the next one.
Yeah, you don't get to rebut anymore.
No more rebuttals.
This is your chance to sit in it. This one I've experienced a lot with family members. You use pity or guilt to get what you want.
Jeez.
I think it's a parent handbook trait.
Yeah.
I walked 3,000 miles to school in the snow.
Hey,
you can
with
make me
nothing
breakfast.
but my flip flops on.
Hey, I never told you that.
Okay.
You know what? One that you did say in a previous episode that I heard you say, my mom does this too, where oh, you're alive? You can pick up the phone and call me? Oh, really? Did you hear that, Ma? She's alive.
Oh, I used to do that all the time. My mom would call and be like, "Oh, well, you haven't called. Well, you got a phone?"
Do you remember what Grandma would say?
Oh yeah.
The phone works both ways,
Yeah.
mijo.
That's
Mija.
that's my grandma. Her great grandma would be like, "The phone works both ways, mijo." I was like, "Oh shit."
That's what Robert says.
I'm hearing shit from my grandma now.
Robert says that to his dad all the time. When his dad's like, "Son, it's been 3 weeks. Why haven't you called me?" He goes, "Phone works both ways, Dad. You want to talk to me? Just call me."
and that's me. That's me. If you want to talk to me, call me. Text me.
We've worked on a compromise. I gave him my location, so they know I'm just home.
I think with Roberts, though, the relationship isn't there to justify him taking that comment seriously enough to alter his behavior.
Yeah.
Like for me, my mom, if she does that from time to time, like, what, you're not going to come see your mom? Immediately, I'm like, where's my next day off so I can go see her?
Yeah.
And then like when I leave, I'm always like, I need to do this again more regular. Get your shit together, Mary. Because I have that relationship with her where I have enough interaction where her saying something is going to alter my behavior.
Yeah.
Just like I think you and Des have the same thing. You saying something is enough for Des to be like, oh shit, I've been lax. I need to get this right.
Yeah.
So this sounds more like maybe you should put up a little more boundaries.
Yeah. And maybe learn healthier ways to communicate.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just come over on days that end in Y.
Okay.
I think this one said it comes often from you not knowing how to ask for help or things directly, and you're not used to opening up or being vulnerable.
That would be me.
And it just says just ask directly and be generous with your help too. So just being generous will make you feel more confident in asking for that same.
I think on something like that, you could also stretch it out to where I'm the pessimist.
Yeah.
I wanted to say more so that it was a little bit of the Hispanic culture. I see it a lot, like with Andrew and I, because we're both the oldest of our siblings. I only have one. He has like 10,000.
I have 10,000 too, Andrew, and I love each one of them.
That's what he tells me.
I adore
He'll be
you.
like, yeah, me and my like 10 siblings. I'm like, dang, no, you don't. But being the oldest, I can see like for me, like I have to see my parents at least like 2 or 3 times a week. Or just at least like have a phone call or just some type of interaction. Andrew, he just sees them like every Sunday and that's it. He's good.
He's not the oldest, right?
He is the oldest.
He is?
But
Maybe
I'm saying
it's a
like
man
I think it's a gender like
Yeah, a
Latino
gender
culture thing.
I think so too, because that was one thing I was going to put in there is that I don't have to see my parents.
Yeah, Robert's same way.
You know, I love my parents, you know, but I can call them. Oh, how y'all doing? And still, it's like even at that, even with my dad, it's a 5-minute talk, 10-minute talk. And 90% of the time, it's about the ranch.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like, oh, hey, how you doing? You know, yeah, I might get, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? And then the rest of it is, oh, well, we got to do this. We need this. We got to do this. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I got the call.
I pressure Robert to call his parents. Like, have you talked to your mom lately? Have you talked to your dad? Have you checked in? And like, after maybe the 100th time I say it, he'll call him, which equates to about a month later.
Again, I think that's a girl thing. I do the same thing with Andrew. Like he'll be like, my sister's birthday's coming up.
It's like, well, call and see what the plans are. Like, what's going on? I do the same thing with Robert. I'm like, I know this is happening. What's the plan? What's the details? He'll call 10, 15 minutes, gets off the phone. Okay, so what's the plan? I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I've set like that boundary with Andrew that I'm like, okay, I know it's mean to say, but I told him I'm done being your mom because I'll be like, okay, like we're going Saturday to your sister's party. What time is it at? He's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. I'm not figuring it out for you. Because it's just as easy. I can like text his mom. It's no problem. It's just more so I don't want to be reliant or him reliant on it.
Yeah, I do the same thing with Robert about gift giving because I'm a very serious gift giver.
Oh, I am too. You know what? I put that's in a chokehold for me.
Yeah.
I will do the gifts. It's totally okay. Just swipe the card, Andrew.
No, I want him to take responsibility for his family because I don't know them very well. And so I don't want to give things that are going to go in the garbage.
I know his sisters. Like
I don't know any of them.
I can
except for
talk
Nora.
to Andrew's sisters and be like, okay, I have a gist of what they like. I can make something out of that. His brother, no fucking clue.
Weirdly, I know his brother and his wife very well because of my nephew. And Robert is very important to have a lot of interaction with his nephew. So they're easy. I can do them. I'm talking about the ones that even he doesn't talk to a lot. And I'm like, give me some direction here.
It's come to a point where I'm like, a Visa gift card sounds good.
Yeah, it's where my default has gone to in recent years. And he doesn't like that. He wants it to be more personal because he sees all the gifts I'm getting for you guys are like my mom's family. And he's like, well, why aren't they getting gifts like that too? And I'm like, because I don't know what to do. I was like, I'm asking you for help. You're not helping me.
But also
He'll
on,
hear this episode.
but
So,
also on that,
Robert, you hear that?
don't worry, Robert, I got your back.
You hear that, Roberta?
I got your back, Robert. Don't worry. But also, it's like if they're not making an effort too.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, I'm fine with the gift card, but Robert wants gifts. If you want gifts, Roberta, get them.
You gotta do it yourself, or you need to like a little more help.
Yeah,
That's how Andrew does it. He'll be like, well, you know, recently my brother told me that he likes this video game, or recently he told me he wants this type of article of clothing, and I'm like, cool, now I can work with that. We can go look.
But I think Abram's right. It's a difference of expectations for women versus men. I think.
Yes.
So another one is being, you are defensive.
Oh my God, that's me.
That's me too.
Andrew will be like, Des, I need you to do the laundry because I ran out of my uniform, my t-shirts. And I'm like, so, like, you fucking hate me. I heard him call me a dumb bitch. Like,
I started doing that, like vocalizing my annoyance with Robert, and then Des started doing it because we hung out way too much. So Robert was like, "Mary, you give me a drink." I was like, "Why? Because I'm your fucking slave?" And then Des was like, "Yeah, it's your fucking slave."
I do that too, or like when I like tell somebody, I'm like, yeah, yesterday Andrew got mad at me and he was like, you dumb bitch, like you're so stupid. And Andrew's like, I didn't say any of that. I just said, Des, can you stop? And I was like, but in my head, that's what I heard.
That's what I did to Robert.
Yeah, but the bad thing is y'all hear it in your head and it comes out to us and we're like, we didn't do anything.
That's my, what is it? That is my toxica trait.
Yeah.
That's when you see a grown man in the corner being like, I'm just going to sit here.
Oh my God. I'm going to get it at home.
He's actually crazy.
No, but my thing is, like, I get defensive. Like, Andrew will be like, I need you to do the laundry. So it gets me mad because I'm like, that's my chore and I didn't do it. But I'm upset because if you really need it, you could have done it yourself.
Yeah.
Which is terrible for me to think because, again, that's a chore that I've put on myself because I like it done a certain way.
Yeah. I think that, I think this kind of fits into the solution that was suggested. It's ask yourself what the root problem is and redirect your efforts to that versus the verbiage. So, like, the root issue is that you always want to do it yourself. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So what needs to happen is the conversation needs to be like, how do we fix it so I'm not always doing this by myself? So, like, this is how I like to fold the clothes. If you could help me by doing it this way and take some of the burden off, we can get rid of this problem. And you won't become so defensive over it anymore.
Yeah, lately we've compromised. If I organize the clothes, you know, like throw the pile on the bed and then all the socks go here, all the chones go here, things that need to be hanged go here. If I organize it like that, he'll put it away. Totally no problem.
Yeah, it's just like vocalizing, like you redirecting your efforts rather than like to focus on like, oh my God, he's calling me a bitch.
Yeah.
To like fixing the problem. Like being more self-aware, I think is going to fix a lot of our toxic
My new
traits.
one right now is I don't get to my clothes in time, so they're kind of wrinkly. And I don't want Andrew to go into work wrinkly, so I'll steam them. I've only done it once, and I burned myself, and I don't want to do it again. But I keep putting his clothes to the side, so I'm like, okay, Des, get over your fear, and you'll do it. The pile's still there.
Maybe we need to think of another alternative. Maybe he could help you steam it and like show you the right way. Because sometimes Robert, like I get frustrated with the new something we bought for the kitchen that we're both super excited about, and then the first time it hurts me, I'm like, I'm done with it. I don't want to look at it anymore. And then he'll go back and he's like, it did because you were doing it wrong.
Me with the spaghetti. Andrew recently has told me he doesn't make spaghetti. He makes, what is it?
Bolognese.
How do you say it? Bolognese?
Beef
Bolognese.
Bolognese, yo.
And I said in the last one, I don't like change. I was very inky.
It was good.
It was
Yeah,
very
wasn't
good.
what I
Very
was
good.
expecting.
Yeah,
But I
very
knew
good.
as soon as I served it, I was like, the sauce. That's not spaghetti. Like a dog. I was like,
I did
this
too.
isn't spaghetti sauce.
When I saw it, and I was like, Andrew, it looks gross. I'm not going to eat it. He was like, all right, don't fucking eat it. And I was like, excuse
You just
me.
call me a bitch.
I was like, that was rude. I was like the surprise Pikachu.
And this is why men will never understand women.
You are overly sensitive is the
Oh,
next toxic
fuck.
trait.
Oh, so you just walked in. Okay,
says
like you just
off-
threw me in. That's weird.
I just called her a bitch. Often stems from a rough upbringing where you were constantly ridiculed. I'm not looking at you, but I'm looking at you.
So I haven't really researched it, and like I haven't taken the time to really look at it into myself. But Andrew knows that when we get in like an argument, if I can't control my anger and I don't want to talk about it, so I'll just start crying. And I learned that it's because apparently as a child I wasn't able to show my emotions or talk about my emotions, so I just start crying. I do remember being little and like my dad would just be angry with me and like explaining to me why he's upset, and I'll just start crying. And he's like, "Why are you crying? Like, I'll give you something to cry about if you want to cry so bad." So I'm not sure if like
That's a generational problem.
Yeah, that thing like leads into the culture. Because I wouldn't call myself overly sensitive, like necessarily when it comes to myself. When it comes to like my brothers and someone like looks at them funny, I'm like, what the fuck, bitch? Because I think culturally we are raised to like keep your emotions to yourself so that we grow up unable to do it in a healthy way.
yeah.
And so it comes out weird.
I don't know. On me, I don't think I'm overly sensitive. I think I'm more of I could care less.
I think you've buried, so like, because Robert and I have talked about this before.
Damn, y'all adding my dad like that?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Not about Abram. It's about Robert, because Robert does the same thing. He doesn't like, so like, let's say like
Yeah, he
those
just, like-
family members that I'm talking about do something that I'm like, that's obviously disrespectful. Why are you not saying anything? He's like, I don't give a shit. It's because he saw like that he did something wrong. He doesn't even give it a thought to think if it hurts his feelings or not. He just immediately disregards it. There's not even a double check with himself. Like, did this hurt my feelings? That doesn't happen.
We put ourselves in that position of we don't have feelings.
TBH, I think the boys like they understand the circles way better than we do.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's necessarily about understanding the circles. I think it's like they've built a wall and nothing's coming through, good or bad, because this could be said about good things too for Robert.
Can I
good
say-
things can happen to him and he won't acknowledge it either.
If it was someone important to you, would you still have that?
I would honestly say that it'd probably have to be like I'd have to determine how I want to take it. Mm-hmm. If it was somebody important that came to me and say, "Hey, look, we need to fix this," or you screwed up, or at that point, or something that might have been said disrespectfully, I would have to look at it as, okay, who is this person to me to tell me this? And if I don't agree or I don't find the importance of that person, then it's like, I don't give a shit.
Or if it hits too close to home, I don't give a shit. Because a defense mechanism will kick in. Because I've seen Robert do that too, where it's someone who's really close to him has said something that really hurt him, like in his core. Mm-hmm. It was big enough so that it made a little bit over the wall for him to at least consider it. And if it hits his pain, immediately, well, I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah. I've had instances where I've had my parents call me and say, "Hey, well, you said something the other day when we got together, and your mom didn't like it. What did I say?" And of course they give me the example, and I'm like, "No, that's not what I said. This is what I said."
Oh, it's the dumb bitch type of thing.
What do you mean?
Like my dad was like, "No, I don't like that." But how we're like, "Oh, so like I'm a dumb bitch."
Oh, so like
they heard
it
differently.
different. It hit them different than what
Yeah.
your intention was.
Okay.
We understood.
You
Yeah.
see, like
Okay.
how you just said, "Okay," you call me a dumb bitch. I'm just kidding.
Okay. No, but to me, it's like, no, this is what I'm going to tell you. This is the way it was. And at that point, I'm like, okay, and I know this is one of the toxic traits somewhere in there along the
He's
line.
really looking hard at Mary's laptop.
It's one of those like we were joking about earlier on the first episode when we got together was, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm not going to admit. Not that I'm going to admit it. I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. No, I'm sorry you feel that way.
But I think that's, in a sense, putting up a boundary and a defense mechanism. Because if you took accountability for your part in it, that's too much. That's being too much. It's too real. You know what I mean? Like it's making the pain associated with it too real.
So again, if it was someone you actually cared about, like if it was like
Mom.
me, mom, my sister, would you say that I'm sorry you feel that way, or would you actually contemplate and sit down like, okay, maybe I did do something?
Honestly, I'm pretty sure I've said to your mom so many times, "I'm sorry you feel that way."
Oh, girl, I know.
But it's
Because you've acknowledged that you've hurt her feelings, but you don't want to admit that you hurt her feelings. You know what I mean? You're acknowledging
Yeah.
that
I
feelings
guess
were
think
hurt.
that's what
I
it
guess you could
is.
say that, but also I don't know if it's in part of me wanting her to be as cold as I am, or just the fact that, you know what, if your feelings got hurt, they got hurt.
I think it's I'm not trying to be like ugly or anything. I think it's a lack of empathy because you see things from your point of view and you expect everyone else to see it from their point of
Yeah.
view. It's difficult for you to put yourself in someone else's position. And I'm not saying that's like a bad thing because Robert does the same thing. He's like, well, how the hell am I supposed to know how you feel?
But I also think
you know
it's,
what, I agree with that
it's
one.
how like boys are raised.
Yeah.
Andrew's the same way.
empathize.
He's like super passive sometimes, and I'm like, can you say something?
But I think
And
it's
he's
because
like, I
they're
don't
the
care.
man of the house. They don't have time for feelings.
Yeah, he's
So
like, he'll just be like, I really
think
don't
there-
care about it.
I don't know. I mean, when it comes to being the man of the house, I think there is time for feelings, but it's not.
For other people's feelings, for them to handle their feelings.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, I understand.
Those are your feelings. You handle that shit. I got my feelings to handle, and I don't really give a fuck what anybody thinks.
What's that? What we talked about in the beginning of the episode. I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
I have other shit going on.
Well, I don't know if it's always that, but it's more of the cultural, like you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm not gonna. I don't.
There's adult shit going on. We don't have time to validate your kid emotions.
Well, not just
That's
that.
what I
Even
heard a lot.
well, even when it's like adults, you know, it's like no, I don't care.
You know, I have heard like multiple times, like, you're an adult. Shouldn't you have figured this out by now?
Yeah.
When somebody says that, that's usually because they haven't fucking figured it out yet.
Dang, that's embarrassing.
But I agree with him. I think
You've never said it. I'm just saying, like,
I know. I've never said it because I've always told you I still ain't figured this shit out.
Yeah, I'm always like, I don't like to speak in absolutes. I think that's my pet peeve. I don't think I could come up with one the last time. I think I don't like it when people speak in absolutes. I find it insulting because then it gets a certain level of arrogance with people who speak in absolutes.
Well, I mean, that also deals with, I think one of the other ones that we skipped, or I don't know if we haven't gotten to it yet, was like you were saying about promises.
Oh yeah, that was the one I was going to next. So it leads into you make a lot of promises that you can't keep.
I think a lot of people do that with good intention, but when it doesn't happen, they don't know how to tell the person.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, it didn't work out. You know, a lot of times they'll see it as they're afraid they're going to see it as a failure. You know, or oh, you let me down. It's not that I let you down. It's just I couldn't, or we couldn't, or that situation couldn't have been handled no other way.
Yeah, I think there was like, to me, there's two different reasons for why this would happen. I agree with you. I think that and certain likability comes into effect, and people want to be perceived a certain way, so they make unrealistic promises to somebody. I think the other part of it, and I don't know like where this kind of comes from, but I never felt like I had the right to say no when I was being asked something. Like, it wasn't like if someone's coming to me and asking me for something, that is so much more important than me. Like, their need was more important than anything I needed. And I think that's my toxic trait though too, is like I stretch myself so thin that when I show up for you, I'm angry because I'm tired. And I've stretched myself too thin, and I become resentful of you for asking me a simple thing, and I've already overextended myself. So I think there's like two possible outlets that have come into play here.
I can see that.
And this one was to take a step back and consider your, like, doing your self check-in. Like, do I have time for this? Is this a need versus a want? And like actually analyzing the request that's coming to you. For someone like me, I think you should do that. Like, you just be more aware of how you're spending your time. Like, Des sees me. I have my big old calendar, and I have to keep that with me because sometimes my family doesn't take me seriously when I say I don't have time for this. And so I feel the need to have to show them, look at my calendar, tell me where I'm supposed to fit that in.
Yeah. I mean, I take it a lot of it as like, you know, like say we were planning to get together. Hey, we can't make it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how I take it. Okay.
There's certain people though where I don't feel like I can say no, and like you guys are one of them. Like, even if I'm tired and like you guys sometimes have to go barbecues later in the day, and Robert's like, let's fucking go. Abram called. Get your shit. Like, he's like, we're going to Abram's house. And I'm like, I'm tired. He's like, Mary, it's family. Like, it's family.
You know, I guess like when you first started like coming into like the family get-togethers and stuff, I noticed that Robert would make excuses for you. Because if he were honest, like, Mary's just real tired.
Mm-hmm.
No one would have like batted an eye. We'd be like, dude, we totally understand. But I think like he was scared. So he'd be like, Mary has a lot of homework, so she's at home right now doing homework.
And then I would come hours later.
Yeah.
I would not go. If that were the truth, I'd eventually show up. If it wasn't the truth, and like, because I remember in the beginning too, when I first started hanging out with you guys, there was a lot of baggage of things that had happened before I started hanging out with you guys, things that were said prior that made it so that I didn't feel comfortable coming. So I had to like, I think that was my way of self-care, was like, I'm going to go over, but in small dosages until I can build up my comfortability again. That I don't think Robert would have been like, she don't fucking like you. And she trying. But
You done fucked her up, boy.
She reached her limit with you this week. We're going to try again next week.
Maybe like 20 more minutes next week, okay?
Yeah. We'll try. We're going to try.
I ain't going to lie. There's not a lot of people that like me.
We know, bro.
And I
It's
go.
a short list.
It's a very short list. You know, but me personally, I'm fine with that. You know, I'm not here to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
But I will say, to the people that like do like you, and to the people that you are like you have in your circle, I will say like he's like the biggest supporter, and also the person that you go to. Yeah.
No, I get what you mean. I think that there's I hate to say it this way, but the youth do not value honesty anymore. Mm-hmm. They want it sugar coated.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to at anybody or anything. It's just like, I've noticed it too, when you're too, like, because for me personally, I don't care if you're an asshole or you're a nice person, as long as you are who you are and it's authentic. I can fuck with you. Like, I can at least respect you. If you're putting on airs, or I can tell that there's some kind of inauthenticity going on, I get angry and I can't be friends with you because I feel like you're lying to me, and it triggers me. I don't think that the kids nowadays, because of social media, all of it is smoke and mirrors. Yeah. So they get so used to the smoke and mirrors that it becomes natural for them in real life.
They don't know how to handle the rejection. They don't know how to handle the disappointment. They don't know how to handle when the world just does not go their way.
Yeah, because they're lost in this alternate reality that they can make whatever they want. Mm-hmm. Like, if something that they don't like comes on their feed, they can just delete it and move on, and they don't have to ever see it again, versus a real life conversation with somebody where they're going to say things you don't like and you can't just like unfollow them. Yeah.
I don't know. I like watching that one that's on YouTube. I think I'm a
The Gen X dad?
Yeah, that one. I like watching that one.
It's fucking hilarious. He's like, hey, dad. He's like, what the fuck you want this time, bro?
I think me and that dad could actually sit down and have a couple of drinks.
Mm-hmm. I only vote for president on if I can see us going to the bar and talking shit.
Exactly. I agree with that.
So the last trait I kind of wanted to go over before we move on to like our personal.
Oh no.
Like advice for people is you rely on others for validation, and that was such a heavy topic for me and Des when we talked about validation in the second or third episode about the effects of not having that validation. I think that when we're talking about these traits, we're talking about them in the extreme. So seeking a little bit of validation when you're feeling down about yourself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's when you're always looking for it. Like, everything you do is in search of someone else's validation is the issue.
I think more of anything that we need to learn, I think both cultural-wise and as an individual, we have to learn how to self-validate ourselves.
Yeah, it's hard, but
to the point where you self-validate yourself, but you're not conceited.
Yeah.
You don't get that, well, I'm better than everybody because this is the way I think. It's like bodybuilders or people that go to the gym every day. They have to, they pump themselves up to go to the gym and do that workout. without ever asking everybody else.
I get what you mean, because I think that also comes into play when you're talking about addiction in our culture, why it's so prevalent in our culture. And it's different forms of addiction. It can be alcoholism, it can be drugs, it can be cigarettes, but it can also be behaviors. Like you're addicted to like risky behaviors or like showboating or something like that, or that kind of thing. And I think that it's because we don't validate each other and we don't teach our kids how to validate themselves. And I also think that there's a lot of like lack of self-regulation that we're being taught too, like regulating our emotions, because I think that plays a real big reason. Like if I'm feeling really crappy about myself, I don't know how to like pull myself out of it enough to tell myself, you're badass, you can do this, like get it together. I only do that like when I'm like my mind is so dead I can't think anymore.
You do it, and you won't do it for yourself until you're like, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm
and I
done
just
with
need to
it.
pull out
Yeah.
whatever little strand of energy I have left. Then I'll start like.
And for me, I'll be honest, I've been to a spot, you know, where it's like, man, to the point where I almost feel like I failed.
Yeah.
And it's my wife that's told me no. She's like, you did it. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And if you stop, and, you know, she'll be honest with me, if you stop and just walk away, you failed. But a lot of times it's ourselves that have to validate us. Because in the end, it's us and those people in that little circle. Because outside, would I really want validation from somebody I don't know? Somebody that I watch on YouTube or TikTok or Facebook? You know, everybody says, oh, yeah, I got 3,000 friends. No, that's a picture on your screen.
Yeah. And I also I see that a lot with like people who like are those social media influencers and models. They're like, look at all these posts of people telling me how badass I am. And like when they make a mistake and they say something they're not supposed to and people hold them accountable, it totally flips because they're so used to getting that validation from outside of themselves, they don't look within. But I also think that our culture, on the flip side of that, we don't trust people outside of our family units to the point where we don't have a relationship. Like, let's say the family unit is not working. We don't have an outside source to help give us strength because we don't trust people outside of the culture.
I think like with the like with my generation, it's better because I do have that friend like friend group that I can go to, you know, as well as like Priscilla. I can go to her if I ever need validation, or more so I need like a helping hand. I wanted to say that I also think, at least for me, growing up as the oldest daughter, I felt like I had to be perfect. I had to be the role model to my sister and to whoever was younger than me.
So negative emotions weren't allowed to be validated because you weren't allowed to have them?
I don't think so, but I won't say no all of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get you.
I don't.
The other women will.
I don't.
It's just I would get in trouble if I didn't make an A, you know? That's like a small thing.
Well,
but
let me respond on that.
Finish.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead, continue.
On something like that, it wasn't like you didn't get an A, so I would get mad. It's because, you know, like most parents, you're going to see the potential of your child.
But I didn't get those talks. Y'all were just upset with me.
Well, no, I mean, we're going to have a little
Yeah, you're not saying this isn't your best work. I know you can do better.
Yeah.
What can we do to get you there?
It's kind of like...
It was just always like, I know you can do better, so fix it. It wasn't like, I can help you with that.
Okay, I'm going to say something right here, and it's going to be on this, and I know it's going to be on the internet forever.
Got it, Des.
Damn.
Hold your
Ready,
breath.
Is this our, what's going to make us famous?
As your dad, I'm sorry I was not the biggest cheerleader when you needed me.
Oh, damn, Dad, don't make me cry.
Des, quick, avert your eyes.
But as your dad, I had to make you strong.
Yeah, I totally get it. I'm happy how y'all raised me. Sometimes I wish it was a little nicer, but either way, I'm happy because I got to see, unfortunately, like the bad stuff early, rather than like leaving that house thinking everything was perfect outside.
Yeah. And it's like when she was talking about like not getting the A and me telling him, it was, to me, it's more like you have all that resources there. So why don't you do it? It's like her younger sister. I'm a history buff. What was the other one?
We were all history.
History buff, government.
He's all, I'm a sexy bitch.
Yeah.
It's like, what else I got?
Let me get that list out. You know.
My sister failed history. And everyone was upset with her because I'm a history buff. My dad's a history buff. My mom loves history. She just never came for help. In my opinion, I think she didn't come to help because she didn't want to say, like, I'm failing in this class, this specific class. Because if it were math, both of my parents probably would have understood, like, all right, math is a little hard. Let's figure this out together. But it was history. So I knew, like, they would have been like, are you fucking kidding me? History?
Yeah. But I get it.
But also with my youngest daughter, with Allie, it's just the Spanish culture has a saying, when you have a child, and depending on how you were as a child, they tell you, te vas a pagar doble. You're going to pay twice as much. And I think I'm paying 4 times as much with Allie.
Boss, who was the drama queen? Because I am a drama queen.
That's your mom.
You're your mom's, what is it? You're your mom's penance.
I just get mad at everything.
Yeah.
You know. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, I think the best thing we can do is give our kids the view of real life. And if hindsight's 20/20, be there when they need us. Not just, you know, oh, do better in school, or here's $20, go have fun. You know, but be there when they have those questions of like, Dad, I don't understand this.
Yeah, I could still go to you.
It means like not being the heavy all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe hindsight, not being a bubble buster all the time.
Thanks, bro. I knew I wasn't going to be an Olympian.
Yeah, it's just they like to dream. I think dreaming is important.
I think it was just in my case, is like all the dreams I ever had were like shot down. You know, my bubble was busted. I'm like, well, fuck, that's reality. I might as well just be with it, you know?
Yeah. So now it's a trait that Des going forward can be aware of if she starts to like do it with her own kids and try to change it.
Oh, she better not do it with her own kids. I'll make sure she gets checked for that.
What the fuck?
She's like, I'll do it in private.
Don't tell your grandpa.
So Des, what's your advice for the next generation going forward?
Talking and having that safe space with somebody. I guess that would be my big thing, because I wish I had that with somebody, that even if it was like a family member or like a close friend. I had it with friends, but I said it, I don't remember which episode it was, that I had friends, but they were going through the same thing I was, so it wasn't really helping me. So if I had someone older with more insight, yeah, I think
I know what you mean. I think I expressed this to you when I first started going on my mental health journey, that I wished people were being more honest about everything and not just the things that made them look good.
I think what Des is trying to say is to have that older person, that it not necessarily an adult, but maybe someone a couple years older that you can go to talk to.
Someone who's been in the shit and isn't going to make you feel like shit for being in the shit.
Because I feel like, at least for me, like going through like some bad stuff, I knew of people in my family that would do it, but I just felt like they would tell my parents.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't tell you how they got through it. They're just kind of like venting about what's happening, but when they get on the other side, no one's talking about it anymore.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's more like somebody they can vent to, but kind of like that person, that confidant, you know, where you can go and like Desi said, you know, she was afraid that if she had that at the time, most likely it was going to come back to me.
Yeah.
You know, where
And it's not that I was scared of you or anything. It was just more so like
maybe,
I was going through that. I'm like, fuck, like, not that I'm scared. Like, how am I supposed to explain this?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a lot of it. Like she said, you know, talking. You know, give them that room of talking to that older cousin, that tia that's the youngest. You know, because like I said in the other one, you know, my aunts are more my sisters. You know, even though I've cut a couple out.
Yeah.
You know, but you're growing up. You got to give them that space. I think to express themselves to an extent.
Yeah. Still a little bit controlled because I think we can get a little wild.
Yeah. You know, it's just that. It's just open up. Let them understand that it's kind of like the old cliche when, you know, you watch that teenage show and it's, oh, you don't understand what it's like to be my age. No, I do understand what it's like to be your age. I'm just not your age no more. I'm your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like when it comes to like my nephews, I want to be that for them. Like if they need me,
Like to share those personal stories.
yeah, to think like I can go to her and I won't pass judgment on them. I'll just give them advice if they want that or if they just want to vent to me.
You know, and that part, you know, as a parent, we'll just use my brother-in-law and the older nephew as an example.
Oh, I was like, who? I know now.
I know now too. I knew immediately. We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. You know, it's like maybe one day he comes to Des and, you know, just with questions or, you know, a concern, you know, what's going on. And maybe not directly like go to the dad or the mom and be like, hey, this is going on. No, look, so-and-so came to me for this. I explained it to him. This is what I told him. Don't freak out when he comes to you.
Yeah.
You know, but like that, they'll have that view of, I talked to somebody that understands.
Yeah.
Somebody that I can trust.
And they kind of laid the groundwork for me to have the real conversation later on.
Yeah, you know, you can tell them, you know what, this is what I think, but, you know, talk to your parents. Tell them this, tell them that, you know. They might react a little bit worse than what you expect, but just listen. Yeah. You know, where, you know, as a parent, move forward as like, make time for your kid. You know, not just the, oh, man, little Johnny has a football game this weekend and little Des has a tennis game. There's more to life than just that. You know, that they're not going to get all their answers on a field.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I grew up with my dad thinking, you know, hey, you're working on a car or extending the house. It was like, you need to figure out what tool I need before I need it. Well, dumbass me was like, who the fuck you think I am, David Copperfield? Well, yeah, that ended up a fight. You know, I got the shit slapped out of me. I swung, he swung. Next thing you know, we're standing there looking at my mom bloody. But it's you don't need that. It's just stand back, listen to your kid.
Yeah. I get it.
You know, just listen.
Dang, coming from my dad, shit's crazy.
I listen to you.
You do listen to me. It's just more so I wish.
It shows growth.
Yeah.
It shows your growth.
Just
over time.
remember the talk we had in Idaho. Oh, no, in Nebraska.
My dad's a truck driver, and I would go with him on the road with him, like during my weeks off of school and shit. And in Nebraska, they have a fucking radio commercial. It's like, talk to your kids about sex. It's okay. They need to understand what happens with sex. And my dad was like, all right, I guess this is like the perfect time.
I guess God said, and I will answer.
Should have jumped out.
So since y'all were kind of talking about like getting over cultural toxicity, I think I'll focus on like your personal traits of toxicity, like for my advice. So I would think for me, what's helped me the most is doing exercises to make myself more self-aware. We have so many resources online, counselors, you know, talking to other adults about how we can understand ourselves enough to make those changes, identifying our own actions that are causing the toxicity to happen. So looking inward, looking at, and if you notice something about yourself you don't like, being intentional and following through with your plans to change it. Because I think a lot of people are like, for me anyways, a lot of my family members who know they have toxic traits, they're like, I'm so sorry, you know, I'll do better next time. And the next time happens and they do the same thing. They don't follow through with their own self-regulation, and it just continues to happen.
No,
Right.
I'll be honest. I mean, there's a good chance I'm not going to change.
No, but you have grown. Mary and I were talking about it recently. That in the beginning, like, I could not come to you. And I don't think anyone could. But now, like...
I didn't like you. I didn't.
A lot
I
of
didn't
people
like you. I didn't like- now I'm in a different spot with it because I understand you more, and I get where you're coming from. Like, because to a certain extent, I think you're triggering for me because you reminded me of some of the things my dad would do. Not all of them. Like, you're obviously not the same person, but it was triggering for me, and I just didn't like you. But then as I kind of like continued to talk to you, it was about the same thing, like with the difference between your dad and my dad. Your intention was not to hurt people. You're trying to help. This is just how you help.
Yeah, I don't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
And and I agree. A lot of people would take that as like, man, you're an ass. You're mean. You don't care about feelings. It's one. I'm not gonna say I don't care about feelings. It's just feelings aren't at the top of.
You're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's not at the top of your list
You know.
when you
Exactly.
give the advice.
But his intentions are positive.
Yeah.
They're not negative. And my only experience with people like who speaks like your dad was that they're always with the intention of hurting people.
Yeah.
Putting you down.
Yeah.
And things like that. I can understand that, man. I didn't know Mary didn't like me.
Honestly, if Mary and I did this podcast like 5 years ago, I would have never asked you to be on.
I wouldn't have let you explain. I'm trying to think 5 years ago. No, I liked Abram at that point. I've been in the family for a really long time at this point.
What, 10 years already, right? 8 years?
We've been married for 8.
Okay.
So we've been together going on 15. And we didn't get along for the first 5.
No, I mean it takes a lot, and I'll admit, that I do have a lot. I do have a lot of those traits, but a lot of those traits too they're I'm not going to say hard to get rid of, but they're already embedded.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too is the generation now. Like you were saying, they're everything's sugar coated for them. Everything's they want everything soft.
But you're good at, like, if someone tells you, you recognize the problem. Again, you may say, like, I'm sorry you feel that way. But I know, like, in your head, for next time.
I also think your dad has gotten better from my own, like, observations about reading the room when you're doing the heavy part. Like,
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. You used to be real bad at that.
and I think that he's grown a lot in that aspect,
Like
which
politics.
makes it easier. Which makes it easier to talk to you and to, like, have a relationship with you because you're not, when you go in with the heavy, you're not being like, me and Des aren't sugarcoating it. We're just soft tones, light voice.
And I'm not. It's
Giving
like,
that safe space to the person.
And so we're
Again-
not coming off threatening. And I think that because your voice is deeper and you have a very, like, what is it? You got bass in it.
Yeah.
It can become off as threatening to people. But I think I've seen you as an evolution because of the struggles that you're having with I'm going to say it, Allie. You've been tempering yourself. It's not an overnight thing, but you've been over time.
And I'll admit, when it comes to my other daughter, it's like I've distanced myself a little bit because of that. So a lot of it I put on my wife, and I'll tell her, like, you deal with it, because if I deal with it, we're gonna have a fight.
Yeah.
And I want to avoid that, because, like Des knows, I'm gonna, and too, I'm gonna tell you straight out.
Yeah, but that's self-regulating, and you're
Yeah.
becoming self-aware, which is the growth I'm talking about.
Some kind
So
of
that's
growth.
it's not an overnight thing. It's a journey. And, like, right now, you don't have the skills to do it the way you want. So you sought that help with somebody else. And that kind of trust I think is also very important when you're trying to get over.
Yeah, I think, me personally, I feel like my generation is probably going to be the last generation of. I'm not going to say truth as in, like, we're telling truth, but, like, truth to where we see black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't see the shades that are in between. It's either, it's like when you ask a question, it's yes or
Or
no.
no.
I really think that my generation is going to be the last. Because the generation that I see now is sugar coated, make it nice, don't hurt my feelings. And I don't think that's a way to have a generation.
Yeah, I think it's slowly evolving because I think that me and Des are kind of somewhere in the middle, and now we're hoping that the next generation will get better about speaking their truth in a way that's impactful and intentional.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good episode.
I honestly think it was too. Whoa.
I'm going to go home and cry now.
I'll send you my bill.
I'm a toxico. Yeah.
It's like, I'll send my bill. It's going to involve some more spaghetti.
We can handle
Bolognese.
that.
No.
No. Spaghetti.
All I know is Andrew's cooking it.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So we never know what next episode is going to be.
Yeah, we kind of do these at random.
So thank you.
Oh, before we get off, I want to say thank you to the people who've been interacting with us on social media. There's one person in particular, and we love you.
Yes, we love you so much, and you made us cry.
And we get so excited every time we see your comments. So we encourage everybody to go on our social media, specifically our Instagram.
We only have Instagram, actually.
Okay, guys. We're going to get professional eventually.
One of these days.
But if we can go and just leave us a comment about the episode, about the quotes, if there's anything you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us. Thank you to the family members who have reached out to us about joining on the podcast, and we're excited to feature you in future episodes. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mary.
And I'm Des.
Say what's up. Say peace out, Pops.
Peace out.
See you next week on Now Try It With Wine.
Bye.